Welcome to episode 10 of the Poker Face podcast. The Hook.
No, I gotta explain to Shasta. Oh, that hooker crawling under the house. That's your Auntie Charlie, who you met once when you were 3.
Good afternoon, Gerry. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Glad to hear it.
How many hookers have you got crawling about under your floor space?
No more than one at any time.
Yeah.
Final episode of the season, final episode of our podcast season as well.
Yeah, I must admit that was, we've not experienced such a short run before.
Well,
Normally,
we did just Fawlty Towers.
Yeah, but we were doing doublers at that time as well. We were doing Blackadder, so...
Yes. Well, were we? No, we did Creek and Blackadder at the same time.
Whatever. 10 episodes, the shortest we've done.
Well, yeah, because there was 12 Fawlty Towers in total.
Yeah.
So you're quite right, yes, this is the short. But then we'll come back to this if it resumes.
Oh yeah, this hopefully is just the end of season 1.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, I think the way the episode ends, it would... If it isn't, it'll be disappointing. And the final episode, I think, is very good as a bridge episode between seasons. If this was how it ended, I wouldn't feel satisfied.
Well, it's a little bit of an up-in-the-air sort of unresolved finale, isn't it? We'll get to that, though, in due course. I did feel like this episode seemed like the one that Benjamin Bratt was putting forward for his Emmy pitch.
A number of good scenes. Him rapping along or singing was fun.
Deadpan.
Yeah.
Do you want to chat some more, or should we look at the episode?
Well, before we do, a couple of points I'd like to raise,
As always, corrections and errors.
I mentioned last week I'm rewatching the show with the Good Wife, and what did we do? Rest in Metal, and last night we watched Time of the Monkey.
Great episodes.
Yes. There's always, in good shows, you always pick up things and further viewings.
Any notes you have to add?
Just one thing that sort of annoyed me, not annoyed me, but annoyed me that I didn't pick it up, but didn't discuss it at the time. So in Rest in Metal, if you remember at the beginning of the episode, she meets and hires Gavin the drummer in the canteen, the cafeteria of her workplace.
Best Buy.
Yes. But it was never mentioned. He turns up. There was no audition, no reference to an audition. You wouldn't hire a drummer, any sort of musician for your band to go on the road without having heard them play. Now, you could say that he might have sent in a demo on an MP3 or what have you, and she's already done this. But still, would only have taken that one line to confirm this. Yeah,
my take on it, though, was that he was probably the only applicant, and she was that desperate for someone that she was willing to hire whoever presented themselves.
I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, maybe, but still, if the person can't drum, then that's a major problem. You can't just say, oh, they're best of a bad lot. If they're a terrible drummer, then you can't play.
Well, that does logically make sense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it was such a big point that we need to...
No, it's just when I was watching it thinking, why did I not mention that before? And it annoyed me, irritated me, so I had to slide in this week.
And also in that episode, Felix Unger is from...
Oh, don't start that. Yes, I was biting my knuckle
when it came back up.
I said to the wife, and she's like, what are you talking about? She doesn't know who Felix Unger is at all and why it's annoying me.
Yeah, that'll dig at you for years and years to come.
Yeah. But the more pertinent point, I would say, is it dawned on me watching last week's episode that Charlie uses her real name
everywhere she goes.
She's on the run. She's off the grid, as they say. She's paying in cash. She's doing all the things that you need to do to try and minimise the chances of being found or detected. But yet, she uses her real name. That's the first thing anyone in that sort of situation would do. You make up a new identity.
Well, you would think.
Cliff drives into town. Has anyone seen a woman called Charlie? Oh, yeah, Charlie. Yeah, she's working over there. At least have that one step. Has anyone heard of Charlie? Who? No, I don't know who you're talking about.
Maybe she's assuming that he'll think she's using a false name.
That's a terrible assumption to make. You wouldn't want to base everything on that assumption.
Puts all her money down on that one.
Yeah. No, the first thing you do is you create a new identity, surely.
I don't know. I think that...
What do you mean you don't know? Yes, if you were on the run, you wouldn't use your real name.
But you need to...
Most obvious way of identifying you.
You need to accommodate the audience.
No, because her character would just become whoever her fake character is. It's not as if we've got a history with Charlie.
You mean like Morty?
Like Morty, exactly.
Okay, well, you stress about that then. Meanwhile, I'll read a summary.
Yeah, crack on.
In The Hook, we meet Sterling Frost Sr., the father of Sterling Frost Jr. from Dead Man's Hand. When we last encountered Frost, he was sending Cliff Legrand to chase Charlie down, and now, over a year later, he succeeds. When Frost Sr. is shot dead in a rival's casino, it seems Charlie is going to be framed for the killing, but with help from an old friend, she manages to wriggle out of the situation. Believing there is one person who will help her find the truth, Charlie turns to an old nemesis for advice. But has she chosen her sidekick wisely, or will there be another twist in the tale?
Cheers, Ian. We're at the Frost County Medical Examiner.
Is that the coroner's office?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And we start with a similar shot from episode 1, with the camera following the floor, this time the clinical checkered tiles of the morgue.
There's quite a few things that mirror episode 1. I don't know if we'll pick up on all of them, we'll do our best, but this was definitely one. So you had the opening of episode 1 was the hotel room, the hotel corridor carpet, and then in this one it's the hospital/morgue.
We see an older man with a southern tinted style who steps through some doors and has to pause to compose himself before pulling out his phone and making a call.
We've heard this call before.
Yeah, it's a familiar call from a different perspective this time.
In episode 1, we heard Charlie at the end of the episode take a call from the father of Sterling Frost Jr.
Which caused her to go on the run in the first place.
It did, but we heard it from her perspective, and this time we hear it from his.
And when she hangs up on him, we see that he turns to Cliff and informs him that hunting her down is now his new job. And that when he finds her, what's he got to do?
He's to call Sterling and ask him how deep to dig the hole.
Oh, yeah.
He looks quite pleased with this assignment.
Well, it's easy. He gets out on the road, it's, take a couple of days, a week, tops.
Yeah, you would think so.
Not the case. We have a montage. And over a sort of jaunty jazz track, we have, this credit which says day 1.
We see clips from previous episodes and some references to episodes that we haven't seen on the show so far. So he's initially directed to LA by the girl in the shop in The Night Shift. Day 68 next, we see Cliff at a shop called Randy's Donuts. I don't think that was in the episode, but he's exasperated that he's been sent in the wrong direction and now has to head to Texas. And on day 92, we find him at Boyle's Barbecue enjoying a rib.
Mm-hmm. Now, through this, we see his spirits or his confidence eroding and his frustration.
Agitation rising, yes.
Yeah.
Day 175 is a clip that we have seen from the doxology gig. Before day 211, we see him dejected, face down in his motel bed.
On the 1 year anniversary, he's depressed and he's holed up in as you say,
Well, you've missed one.
Oh, have I? Well, I wasn't going to go through them all.
Why?
Because we've seen them already, we've discussed these already.
But day 322 is an interesting one. He's outside the Seneca Lake Dinner Theatre, where he's got a programme from the Ghosts of Pensacola, but apparently it has been a week since the performance.
So we catch up with him in a down-market motel room watching a burn notice. Now, this is a nod back to episode 1 where
Another one, yes.
I think, is it Charlie's called a real a little Michael Weston?
By Cliff.
Yes.
Yes.
He's obviously a big fan of the show.
Well, I think so, because as this episode goes on, he seems to morph into sort of a version of that character by himself.
His actions and his demands.
And his clothes.
Yeah.
We hear him in a voiceover saying it's been a year, over a year, and then we see day 368 where he laments the coffee and bad motels and the things that he has had to eat on a phone call with Frost Sr.
Yeah, as he sits in his car. So it's almost like he's on sort of stakeouts or he's a travelling salesman.
Yeah.
It's really starting to depress him. And it would. The type of food, if you ever had a road trip for whatever reason on work, it's just, you eat garbage, you don't get a great night's sleep. It's just, you feel a bit dirty all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Should see what I got up to.
Well, okay. Frost at this point decides to taunt Cliff slightly by saying that it sounds like you're telling me you're bad at your job, and why would you say that to your employer?
However, he's interrupted by a call from someone called Matthew Parker, who has some news.
That's not a name we've heard before, is it?
No, it's just a contact he has.
Yeah, the news is from Colorado, and it seems to be good news.
We cut to Morty being revealed on a slab at a morgue, and Cliff immediately asked to see the Jane Doe.
So this is what we didn't see last week before we got the scene with him outside the hospital.
Yes.
And now we get that scene again.
Yes, about him asking Frost how deep to dig the hole.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he has some irritating news for him.
Apparently it's going to take a couple of months for Charlie to heal up, and Sterling wants those months to be allowed to her.
He orders him to camp out and not let her escape again. This obviously enrages him, and he starts to swear and mouth off at his boss, refusing to do so before we have a quick cut back to the motel. He's obviously been put in his place.
Yeah, eating a wee burger.
It's a burger or a sandwich. It doesn't look very... I'm saying it doesn't look very appetising, but as you know, right this very moment, Ian, I am starving, and I would down that in seconds, whatever it is.
No doubt. We get a caption telling us 2 months have passed.
He's also again watching Michael Weston, this time putting someone in the trunk of his car.
Well, there's a reference.
Yeah.
We get a caption now telling us 2 months have passed, and we see Charlie back on her feet, greeting, or saying goodbye really, to the others in the hospital.
Yeah, she's walking with a limp, I think, but is in good spirits as she says goodbye to the staff who she's obviously become friendly with. And at the front desk, she assures the chap called Edwin that she'll be giving them a 5 stars on Yelp.
She also offers to pay up her bill in instalments.
Well, when she says offers to pay up, she sort of conspiratorially asks if there's some sort of payment plan. What can you do for me here? But I'm surprised to find out that her bill had been paid in full since day one.
She's not sufficiently suspicious about this, I don't think.
Well, she at first thinks it's through Obamacare.
Yes, but she's told that she's misunderstood the entire hospital system in America.
Yeah, but not only that, yeah, she's got a private room with a TV.
That's it. How does she think that comes? Does she think it comes as standard, essentially?
Yeah,
she shows a moderate level of concern, but I don't think sufficient concern here. Alarm bell should be ringing for her.
Maybe she thinks Trey covered this in some way, or I don't know.
Yeah, we don't see her considering anything other than just walking out the front door.
No, I think, does she not suggest perhaps it was some sort of charity and he just shakes his head?
Yeah, no, she's got a benefactor, that's for sure. But she doesn't take any precautions, she simply walks down the stairs and out the front door.
I liked the score here. I liked the sort of slow motion. It was a little bit Scorsese to an extent.
Yeah, we get the first point of view shot is of Cliff waiting outside before we then see Charlie come into view at the door, and he's offering her an option here.
Yeah, the choice of trunk or passenger seat.
And I like this little cut here.
Okay, before we get there, he also offered her this in Rest in Metal.
He did.
And the soundtrack here was great as well. I think it was Lavender Blue by Sammy Turner.
Okay.
So yeah, tell me about this cut.
We get a quick cut to Cliff driving alone with Charlie banging in the trunk, saying she's changed her mind.
Yeah, and a few seconds later, she is allowed up in the passenger seat beside him. After a brief overnight in a motel, with Charlie handcuffed to the bed while Cliff watches again some burn notice, we return to the road trip.
Charlie asks whether Cliff thinks Sterling's going to make it hurt.
And he smiles coldly as he responds that he hopes so.
She says that in a way it's a relief that she's relaxing now, that she's not having to be constantly on alert.
I can understand that. I think if there's anything at all, I mean, they say it without wanting to get too, get too dark here, but they say people, who have decided to take their own life, you get to a point where you've come to accept what's going to happen, and there's that period of relief and, anxiety has been
Even
lifted.
in things that aren't quite as grim as that, like leaving a relationship or that sort of changing job.
Yeah, I think once you've accepted it yourself, I think the lead up to any big decision or any decision that causes you stress, that's the worst part. Once it's been made, no matter how bad it is generally, there's a period of
acceptance,
and yeah.
Cliff tells her, and this is the first of the episode's references to the hook, is the thing that brings her back, because she knew that she would be caught eventually.
She then decides to bring up Natalie and asks Cliff outright if he killed her and Gerry. How does he respond to that?
He pulls over in some sort of barn area.
I think it's just a roadside, whatever, yeah.
Okay. And asks her to open the glove compartment,
where she takes out a revolver and she doesn't know what to do, but she points at him.
Yeah, she's trembling. You can see the rage on her face. She wants to kill him.
Well, yeah, it's rage, but it's obviously it's fear as well. And he confidently stares back. Yeah. He's not nervous. He's not shaking.
They both know that she's not a killer.
Exactly. And I think this, from a psychological point of view, has put her back in her place as well. It's taken any sort of, chutzpah, any confidence, any arrogance, or any pretense at maybe having strength away, I suppose.
Yeah, it reinforces the power dynamic between them. But this is something that I think about quite often in relation to gun culture in America. Most people aren't killers.
Of course.
But there's always...
Really?
No, but most people don't want to be killers or don't want to kill anyone, don't probably have the capacity to kill anyone. But yet you're still sold this narrative of everybody wants to have guns to defend themselves or wants one in their bedside drawer or under their pillows. I mean, most folk, even if you're getting burgled or whatever, you don't want to kill somebody.
I mean, that's the argument as well, isn't it? That your average person won't, and all they're going to do by pulling a gun out is offering a gun to someone who might want to use it on you.
Or escalating a situation that, Anyway.
Thanks for that, Ian.
No, it's just the fact that, Charlie demonstrates here exactly how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Cliff calmly removes the gun from her possession, grabbing it around the barrel and puts it in the pocket or the side of his door.
The journey continues with Cliff reciting the lyrics to The Hook by the Blues Traveller, which doesn't go down too well with Charlie.
No, she tells him he's the effing worst. It's another, obviously, Hook reference. It's one of many in the episode. We then get a nice sort of postcard-style splash. Greetings from Atlantic City.
And we have an imposing shot of the Hasp Casino and Hotel. Inside, Charlie is nervously asking if she's about to get whacked like Pesce in Goodfellas as Cliff shoves her into a suite and tells her to put on the floral dress and heels that have been left for her.
I'm pretty sure that's a spoiler for Goodfellas.
I'll beep it out.
I'm probably the only one that's not seen it.
You've not... Oh, let's not.
Cliff tells her to get cleaned up and he'll be back, as you say, in an hour.
Where we see he is roughly escorting her across the casino floor and to a poker table where the cowboy-hatted Frost Sr. is waiting for the kid with a chip, a drink and an old-school tape recorder in front of him.
I noticed that her lump seems to have cleared up.
Yeah.
Maybe just the stress of the situation and psychological.
Possibly. She initially declines, but then orders a beer and sits down to
That's
hear her
another
fate.
episode 1 reference, because when she went in to see Frost Jr., she declined a drink and then took a beer.
Yes.
Sorry if that's annoying to folk. I feel like we need to pick these things up. She then tells Sterling, all right, you got me, and asks what happens.
But he wants to hear about her last year. However, she's not, at this point, she thinks she knows what's going to happen. She isn't going to...
Again, episode 1 reference, she went to the meeting thinking she knew she was getting fired.
And was pretty relaxed about it.
And it was,
she'd accepted her fate.
And it was, again, like this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what she thought it was then, and it isn't what she thinks it is now. She asks him to do her the dignity of skipping the cat and mouse stuff.
But Frost just wants to talk and mentions the family that he has heard she has nearby, but makes it clear that he only found this fact interesting and it wasn't a threat. And
she
instead,
just looked threatened.
You would, that's what you would think. This bad guy's about to kill me is asking about other members of my family. That's not generally a good sign.
No.
But instead, he changes the subject to the owner of the venue that they are in.
This casino is owned by the Hasp family. Beatrix Hasp. No piece of work. Not very nice people. You can feel it coming up from the floor. I can. Sitting at the tables, I can feel it. It's funny how it seeps all the way down through the bedrock. And even still, there's no place I would rather be than a casino floor. I tried retiring. I tried golf. I mean, it's fine. I just kept getting pulled back, you know. There's nothing that pulls you in more than being really good at something for unhealthy reasons. Running a casino, that's what does it for me. I'm very good at it. For the exact same reasons I'm lousy at being a father. How about that? Any of this making any sense to you?
I didn't kill your son. And I want you to know what he did. And what Casimir Kane did. And why I did what I did.
I know.
You know?
I know. And I understand. I would have done the same thing. I don't blame you for my son's death.
Well, what? Sterling, what the have we been doing for this past year?
I've been chasing you.
Why?
Because you've been running.
I was running because you were chasing me. What the is even happening right now?
And now I caught you.
Yes? And? Now? What? If I stood up and walked away right now, so what happens?
Good. Your car's cleaned up, it's serviced. Hey, it's in the West Valet. Here. I don't think you will, though. I'm not gonna hurt you. And you know I'm not lying. But I think you're curious why I got you here.
Couple of things. I mean, tremendous acting as we've come to expect in this show. I thought that the way his mannerisms were the way he was talking and the style was very similar to how Adrian Brody acted as well. And it's obviously a deliberate. They're trying to.
Oh yeah.
They're trying to be father and son.
So clever.
Yeah.
Nicely done by both actors.
What do you think of the twist there?
He's told her he's going to kill her, and she knows he wasn't lying on the phone.
That's a point. Yeah. She must have known at that time.
So at that point, he wanted to kill her.
Yeah, but it's been the sort of the day after, so...
Yeah, so he might be highly emotional at that point, but it doesn't seem like he's communicated to Cliff that he's changed his mind.
No, which is very risky from Charlie's point of view, because...
He might just have killed her, so I had to kill her, she was trying to get away.
Yeah, because he's getting annoyed with
he
this.
He shot at her in episode 4.
Exactly, yeah. But maybe he hadn't decided until the last few days not to kill her.
Yeah, but did he not say at one point, I was never going to kill you? Or I was never I don't know. I don't know, but it does seem like he's fond of her.
Yeah.
Legitimately, and she can tell he's not lying when he says he's not going to harm her now.
See, the thing is that when he said there, he admitted that he would have done the same thing. So he's tortured her for a year. Over a year.
Yeah, maybe he feels like that's the payback.
But for what? As I'm saying, if he thought she was guilty, then that might have been, or responsible, then that might have been justifiable. But if he's saying, yeah, no, I know that you didn't do anything wrong.
It's just completely Machiavellian. He just wants her to help with this thing. And that's coming up, we're about to mention.
Yeah,
okay. This whole thing was just because he was annoyed that his son had chased her off.
Yeah.
But then why threaten her? I don't know.
So Charlie, at the end of that clip, she walked away, but he has, of course, judged it right. And a few seconds later, she returns and sits back down. We see Cliff standing obviously on his shoulder or beside, and he's not happy with how things are going here. I think he's thinking, well, what are you doing? I've been chasing her.
Yeah, he seems agitated.
Yeah.
Or I said exasperated in my notes. But again, we get a hook reference here. Sterling literally says that he knew he had her hooked.
Before pressing play on the recorder, and we listened to the conversation Charlie had with Junior, where he described his plan, and she was worried about Senior not approving.
He plays this tape, as you say. We hear this message, but he wants to play her something else.
He does, yeah. I mean, before that, he explains that he had the whole place wired, or he's had it wired for decades.
Onto audio cassettes.
Because he trusts tape. But as you say, he has something else for her to hear, and he rewinds the tape to just before Charlie entered, and they listen to Junior receive a call that he doesn't want to be heard, or he doesn't want to take place in the casino.
Yes, because he knows that the phones could be traced.
Which Senior has, and he found out that it belonged to Beatrix Hasp, and then goes on to make a fool out of me.
He does, because back in episode 1, Junior told Charlie the first 2 of the 3 things that his father insisted upon. And
I confidently stated that the third would have been about Charlie, obviously.
Obviously. I mean, I'm sure I maybe said it might not be.
Yeah, looking back now, you probably hinted at that, but I charged on with my...
Yes, you were quite adamant.
I was very adamant, yes. To quote a great man, it takes a big man to admit when you're wrong. I am not a big man.
He says that the first 2 things don't matter, the things that we already heard about from Junior. But he then tells us the third thing that Junior wouldn't tell us about. And it turns out that it was to not deal with the Hasps. Yeah, they've been after a piece of the Frost Casino for a long time. But he knows that Junior was making a deal with Beatrix and the 5 families. And the reason that he is there at this particular time is to have a sit down with them. And again, he makes he has a dig at Cliff. He says he hopes he is not so bad at his job that he's going to let 2 Sterlings die in a row. See, there's a couple of times they get referred to as the Sterlings. That's their first name. And it happens, Cliff does it later on, he refers to the Sterlings. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's their first name. Why would you not say the Frosts? I don't know. It's a bit weird. Anyway. Now, what I would say to this as well, we've seen plenty so far in this episode to provide
motivation for Cliff. We can understand this relationship here, why he might not be satisfied with how things are going.
Course. Apparently, if Sterling Sr. is hurt, it will start a war between the 5 families and the Southwest Syndicate.
Yeah.
Like the alliterative names that all these gangs have gone for.
Sure. Now, he knows that during this sit-down, there's going to be lots of promises and assurances, etc. He wants Charlie there to sniff out the BS, obviously.
Yeah.
What does he offer her for this?
$500,000.
Yes, as he fidgets with the poker chip, he says, take the 500,000 and hopefully it'll be the beginning of a mutually beneficial relationship. But she's under no obligation. Again, this is another nod back to the first episode.
Absolutely. Very similar deal to what she was offered on that occasion. She turns the tape over and hits record and says she wants that down on cassette.
He's happy to do this because he's telling the truth. She says, yeah, she, like him in tape, she trusts.
So she gets her mobile phone back and is told, welcome back to the world.
She's
it
delighted
can't be her
with this.
mobile phone. It must be a new phone.
Yeah, it'll be a new phone, yeah.
And receives a gift.
And an old-fashioned gift box tied with a ribbon.
He says that he hopes she doesn't think he's too sentimental.
With a smile, she lifts the lid and rummages around in the polystyrene packing until, with horror, she pulls out...
It's a revolver.
Oh, for a second, she sees the look of shock on Frost's face. But
how can he be shocked? Surely it would be much heavier with that in it than with what we see him put in it.
But you don't know what other sort of packing... Because he thinks it's just something a lot smaller. So maybe he thinks that whoever's...
the box is heavy or
has
whatever.
put something in just to...
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Anyway, the lights go out and people scream before his face is lit up twice with 2 gunshots.
Some good lighting in this little scene. Some black light stuff. And
there is, but I've got an issue with the practicality of this. We'll get to it a little bit later on.
Okay.
So seeing him dead on the floor, Charlie panics and she runs off as Cliff shouts for security to stop her. The killer of his boss, as the camera focuses on the literal smoking gun.
We should say that we're not ever showing him confirmed dead. That could be a thread that they leave open.
It could for season 2. It's possible, considering what happened to Charlie last week, where you think, oh, well, she's obviously dead.
Stabbed in the chest, yeah.
I mean, we have seen, it's a trope. Someone reveals that they were wearing a
bulletproof vest. I mean, there is blood in his shirt, but that could easily be...
Or maybe he's just very lucky and the bullets passed through this or that, and after, 24 hours of surgery, you managed to pull through.
Yeah, I don't think it would be hard for them to bring him back.
If you wanted to, you could, yeah.
And I hope they do. Just say that.
It would be brilliant.
Because he's brilliant, yeah. Anyhow, we now get our time skip, but not to Charlie earlier, but to Cliff.
Yes, we are in the car with him, where he's on a call. And
we don't know that. It seems like he's monologuing at first.
Oh, yeah. But we find out that he's letting out his true feelings to someone about his relationships with the Frosts.
When you follow somebody's orders for 25 years, stand behind them and nod. Advance when they advance. The man behind the man. When you do that, there's a very natural impression to be had that you like the person, even love the person. Oh, maybe it has something to do with dogs. When that's reflected back on you by everyone who sees you as the man's best friend, I guess it can go 2 ways. It can hook you, pull you in, make you start to feel something like love, or it can go the other way. Start to metastasize. And all the disrespect and lack of regard and all the ways you're treated like a dog that seem to bounce off the obedient facade. No. It all goes somewhere. Right here. I hate the old man. I want a yacht. In addition.
Right, we can get you a yacht.
Now, terms you laid out proffer me more dignity and respect than I've gotten in decades from the Sterling, so I am saying yes. Just tell me how deep to dig the hole.
Yeah, this is all good to hear. But it won't be that simple. If any connection comes to light between us and his death, it's not good. It's war. And yeesh, war.
So you want it to look like an accident?
Well, even that, with the timing, people will be suspicious. Nope, the best thing, the ideal thing, we get a patsy. Someone with a believable motive that we can set up in an ironclad way to take the fall. What's so goddamn funny?
As you mentioned at the start of the podcast, it's a submission there for the Emmy.
Well, that along with his recitation that you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I found the way that Beatrix spoke at the end of that call a bit unusual.
In what sense?
Just a bit unnatural, the way that she was laying out so specifically what she wanted. You know, there's certain things that would be understood, and I don't know. It just kind of jarred with me very slightly, nothing major.
Okay. We have a montage.
Yes, we see how Charlie's Prince ended up on the gun.
It's under Burl Ives' singing Dylan's Don't Think Twice, which I thought was brilliant. And there are a number of covers of that, but including Willie Nelson. But I think that one there is the best. I think that it's just the tempo has been slowed down compared to Nelson's. I think it just hits home a lot more. Something, I don't know, melancholic. It's just it's a really
fit nice. It
did, yes.
Yeah.
Very good choice.
We get some gaps filled in. The one with him bagging the gun, probably not necessary, but anyway, we see him do that when she's sleeping in the motel. And then we see Atlantic City again. He joins Sterling as Charlie's getting changed, and we see what should have been in the gift box.
What was that?
Literally just a pin badge, Charlie's name badge.
Well, I think that signifies her getting her life back.
Yeah, she's joining the team as well, I think, as well.
But you see that as well, if she had changed her name to something else, that would have been more significant. It's like, now I'm Charlie again.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's quite a sentimental little guy, isn't he? Really, at heart.
He is.
What else do we see? I think we see him.
Cliff bins it.
Yes, and then he gets we see the luminous chips being used.
Yeah, and we see him take the gun that Charlie's touched and put it in his holster.
Yep. We also see that he's got a controller that works the lights.
Well, that gets delivered to my room service.
It does, yeah.
I thought it was some kind of detonator, but yes, it's to work the lights. And then down in the casino, we see him put the gift, the tape player, and the casino chip in place.
We then watch as he shoots his boss, and in the confusion, swap the gun in his holster with which has got Charlie's prints on it, for the actual murder weapon.
Yeah, I think that might be confusing to some people. Both guns have Charlie's prints on them, obviously, because she's pulled one out of the gift box, which is what she'll think is how her prints go on it, and the other one she touched in the car.
Yes.
So he shot the guy with the one from the car that already had her prints on. He's wearing a glove, we see that, and then swaps them out. So he is shot with a gun with Charlie's prints on it, but the other gun that Cliff comes with also Charlie's touched.
We then have a number of calls. It's quite a fun few shots.
Like this, yeah. So obviously she doesn't know the last digit of Luca Clark's, the FBI agent's phone number. So she's dialing different numbers.
Yeah.
So the first person she gets the guy at a barbecue, and then I wonder if are these meant to be throwbacks to previous episodes?
I don't think so. However, she eventually gets through to the sugar nephew, Agent Luca Clark.
Yes, he tells her to hand herself in and hangs up.
Yeah, after he's sitting beside another group of agents.
He's in some kind of meeting,
so
yes.
He walks away and gives this instruction, and she's obviously agitated by this advice.
He then calls her back from a burner phone.
And instructs her not to hand herself in.
Indeed. He is shocked to hear that she's not only in Atlantic City, but in the hotel where he is investigating this murder.
Yeah, she can't believe
murder in inverted commas because we don't know whether the body's been confirmed dead or not.
Of course. She's quite surprised that he's there, but he refers to the incident as the Franz Ferdinand of mob hits.
A wee reference to World War I there for anyone who's not aware. I've seen the car he was shot in.
Not the Glasgow-based rock band.
I think they're also named after the same guy, aren't they?
Yeah, of course.
I've also seen the uniform he was wearing when he was shot with the bloodstains in the War Museum in Vienna,
there you go.
Which is worth a visit.
If you're in the
neck of the woods, yeah. Yes, anyway, moving on. Charlie is quite surprised because she thought that Luca was lower level.
Yeah, and Uber for stoolies. But because of her help with getting Kane, which he informs her they've got.
Yes, he went back and found her email and they caught Casimir Kane, and she's delighted to hear this.
Which I think this is a nice touch as well, because the amount of stress and fear that she is feeling right now, but you see a genuine reaction of delight that this bad guy has been caught, and I think that shows you what type of person she is.
Yes. Sorry, this is when she lets him know that she's still in the hotel. I mentioned earlier that she was in Atlantic City. He tells her she has to get out, but not using her own car or via him.
Yeah, he makes the point that there have been witnesses and CCTV footage of her pulling the gun before the power goes out. Now, so I've got 2 points here about this.
Yeah.
That in itself should be a red flag. That'd be the type of thing that Columbo would pick up on. It's quite the coincidence. Like, if she's pulled out a gun and stood up and
the light
done
scout
this,
straight away.
and the light scout, yeah, she's obviously not trying to be covert here.
Look, who knows that she didn't do it.
Yeah, but anyone else looking at it, it's just it seems a bit.
We've already heard that the police are controlled by certain people on this show.
Yeah, sure.
If the hasps want it to be pointed at her,
well,
it could well be that the Atlantic City cops are willing to do that.
But the bigger issue I've got here, there's camera footage of this, obviously in the dark. However, when you fire a gun, there'll be a flash coming from the gun itself, and you'll see that it wasn't
where Charlie was.
Yeah. I think that's quite a major plot hole.
Unless the footage is just not high enough quality to show that.
It's pitch black, and you'll see a flash.
But the flash could just light the whole screen up if the frame rate's slow enough.
Okay.
It would just be you'd have a dark frame and then a light frame, and it wouldn't necessarily show where the light was coming from.
In any case, she insists that she didn't even know what was in the box and certainly did not fire the gun, but is exasperated at how her prints and the ballistics ended up in this gun. I've got an issue with this as well. Not at one point does she ever acknowledge or remember the fact that just the day before, someone made her hold a gun, a handgun, the same sort of gun.
Doesn't occur to her.
That surely it'd be. I can't believe my prints are on a handgun. How could they possibly have been? Wait a second, I held a handgun yesterday.
She's not thinking about a second gun. She's thinking, I did pick up that gun, but I don't understand how it's fired.
Yeah, okay.
She's not thinking about a second gun. Why would you think about a second gun?
I suppose, the prints are on it, because she did pick up the gun.
Picked it up out of the gift box.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Fine.
At this point, we hear from Luca that it doesn't matter what the truth is, that if Hasp and the 5 families killed Frost and set her up, then she's still in trouble. She needs to get off the island alive, and he can't guarantee that she'll be safe if she turns herself in.
And so he asks her if she has anyone local that she can go to, and she sighs, maybe.
Yeah. We then see her in the lobby. I like this scene. Join very sort of unenthusiastically, maybe, or
of course
feigning enthusiasm.
This is a TV and a movie cliche where you join a group of other people to get in or out of somewhere.
Yeah, it's the way that she waves her arms around, really sort of, yeah.
And then we call this obviously a hen party here. Is that what they call it? Bachelorette party in the States.
In the States it is, yes. She makes her escape with them, and we find her on a party bus.
Oh, and it's like something from the Hangover. She has a drink alongside some blow-up dolls and dildos, and beside a typical emotionally drunk woman who's crying.
I like that it was subtitled because she was completely incoherent. And then she gives Charlie a talisman that will lead her to safety.
Indeed.
She gets off the bus and we find out what this talisman was.
Oh yeah, she's on a suburban street, but she's a bit sort of bummed to find what?
It was a penis-shaped ring.
From now on, we're calling it the dildo ring.
And it won't come off her finger. It's very three-dimensional. We
cut to her on the phone being told by Clark that things are heating up as the Southwest Syndicate think that Hasp and the 5 families hit Frost. This is bad news for her, as Clark believes that Hasp can sew things up if she's brought in. They can basically, make her the patsy.
It's a credible cover story,
of course. So Charlie's getting desperate and suggests that maybe they can hear from her recording on the tape how far away the shot was. Some sort of blowout or distortion. And that, again, that's a nice reference to, we've discussed this before, I'm not sure what podcast it was on, but that's obviously a nod to the Brian De Palma movie Blowout with John Travolta, which was based on Blow Up by Antonioni.
It also sounds a lot like when you hear folk dissecting the RFK assassination.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff there with bullets. How many shots do you hear? How far away were the shots? Which ones are echoes? Which ones are real shots?
For sure.
She refers to Gene Hackman here. See him in one of those movies?
She does, yeah. It's a second. No, he's not in one of those, but it's a conversation. We've talked about that before, yeah.
Okay. She is advised to get out of town.
Yeah, but she tells him to turn the tape over and listen.
Yes, to the conversation, yes, and then he says he's been back and forth over the tape, like Gene Hackman, yes.
Yeah, that's the type of thing that you don't have to tell an FBI agent turn the tape over. They might have been through it with a fine-tooth comb, as they say.
You would think so.
Anyway, she has to concede that anything on the tape, it proves nothing.
No, there's no way, but she realises very quickly that it's not going to be her get out of jail free card.
And at this point, she comes to the house that she's been headed to, but is perturbed to see numerous cop cars surrounding it. And so she sneaks in through...
It's not very sneaky.
It's not. You can actually see her from the front of the
Running
house.
across the driveway.
Yes. But she uses this sort of secret passage that there is into the house from the crawl space underneath.
And as she's accessing that, a small child, or maybe not a small child, but a child,
She's about 8-year-old, I think.
reports to what we assume is her mother that there's a woman under the house using the secret entrance.
And by the look on the mother's face, she has guessed who it is and is standing there sternly with her arms crossed when Charlie enters into the utility room with a hopefully upbeat greeting.
She says, "Hey Em, how you been?" This is her sister Emily.
Yes. Who responds with a, "Are you effing kidding?"
Charlie explains that she's serious, and we heard at the top of the show how upset her sister is about her method of arrival and the fact that there's cops outside.
And also she questions what she's wearing.
Yeah.
Her mood is not improved by Charlie's request for some olive oil.
Yeah, to remove this ring, but it turns out it's not on her finger anymore. So
Oh, well,
it's
that's
obviously
fine. That's
come off somewhere.
Of course. She threatens to turn her in herself. And we get some sort of typical sibling arguing back and forth and shouting as Charlie pleads for help just this one time.
You get the feeling she's maybe heard this before.
Yeah, again, we mentioned this last week. It'd be good to find out a little bit more about the backstory to Charlie. There's obviously issues between them and the father is
We'll maybe
referenced.
get to that. Yeah, there's certainly something bubbling under because Emily gets quite emotional and tells Charlie that she is ruinous. That word comes up again later.
In the kitchen, Charlie embarrassedly asks her if she received the money that she sent a few years back, which angers Emily, who thinks that she's either trying to leverage this gift or that she needs some of it back.
Yeah, neither's true. She just wants to make sure that she did receive it, which she did.
And tells her that she'll be gone in 2 minutes if she can just get their dad's boat.
So we see Emily rummaging in a bedside drawer as Charlie thanks her before going through to speak to her niece, Shasta,
who she introduces herself to as her aunt. And then she confuses Charlie by asking if she swims.
Charlie says she hasn't swum for years and asks whether she looks like she swims, but the child runs off.
Yeah, leaving Charlie watching Hook.
Yes.
And the girl returns with a photo of Charlie and Emily as kids in bathing suits on a boat.
Charlie explains to her that their dad used to take them out on his boat and then make them swim back to shore.
Yes, however...
That sounds like a form of abuse.
Yeah, I think people used to say in the past, you throw in your kid and sink or swim type, that's a bit of a risk. What if they sink?
Yeah. I suppose after the first time, he knows they can do it.
Yeah, she admits that she hates swimming, but states that she was good at it. And, if you end up in the water, what else are you going to do? And at this point, Emily comes through with the keys and tells Shasta to say goodbye, which she does with her doll.
Which is now using Charlie's ring as a hair roller.
Again, it's just the sort of the black or the sort of outrageous humour in this show that it makes it, it stands out.
Disappointed, I would say, Emily hands this back to Charlie, who profusely apologises.
Back in the utility room, Charlie's about to leave and decides to make an attempt at a reconciliation by asking for a chance to talk things through when she clears up her current predicament.
No. There's a world where we get to talk. We hash out the past, talk about Dad, what you did, what you ruined with your truth and bullshit. You learn more about my life, my kid, and we built that. But that's not the life you chose. That's not the Charlie show.
You think I chose this? Doing this? You think I like living like this?
Well, I don't know. But, what is like? I don't care. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. It's the life you got. And someday, you're gonna have to admit you chose it. This is not just a series of situations you keep getting reeled into. You choose to be out there, wherever the f*** you are, just swimming free, cool and breezy. And I bet people love you. And I got a lot of bile kicking up right now, I know. But I'm not saying they're wrong. You got a good heart. You'd choose to spend it on strangers and then breeze on down the highway. But I don't know. Maybe that's right. You know? I mean, I bet you do some good. I bet there are a lot of people out there who need someone like you. But us, we're doing just fine.
That very raw, emotional response leaves Charlie speechless.
That was a phenomenal bit of acting.
It was very good.
Very effective and
Believable.
impactful, yes.
So with nothing literally to say, Charlie backs out of the secret passage.
Yes, and the door is closed behind her. We head down to the marina where we see a train passing a bit like in the stall.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie now has this ring stuck on her finger again.
Yeah, as she inspects her father's dilapidated old boat and realises that it's not going to be fit for purpose.
Yes, so she calls
Cliff.
yet again, failing to identify the threat.
Yeah,
as she does in almost every episode.
Yeah, he is enjoying a beer on his new yacht as she pleads her innocence by pointing out that she'd absolutely no motive to kill Frost. But that's not true. Frost's been torturing her for a year.
Yeah. But at that point, he'd agreed to give her life back.
True.
And Cliff just says, people do things, and he asks her where she is.
But he also agrees that the shots didn't sound like they came from... So she asked this.
So in this scene, and probably earlier in the episode as well, Cliff makes a very deliberate attempt to not lie.
Well, he knows what her ability is, so he has to.
So he's working around that. He's quite astute here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he agrees with her. Yeah, the sounds of the gun didn't come from the table. So he's building up her conspiracy theory here.
And is obviously delighted with her suggestion that she comes to him as they are both in this together and they both want to find out who killed the old man.
He tells her that he is on a boat at the State Marina, Pier 12.
And when he hangs up, he immediately calls the cops with the news that Charlie will be making an appearance. And after this, Hasp makes a short call.
Well, he tells the police that he will try to keep her there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tells Beatrix Hasp that he did do something. We don't know what.
It was a pleasure doing it.
Yes, and it's a pleasure doing business with her, as you say, and then throws the phone that he talks to her on into the sea.
Before being shocked that Charlie has arrived so quickly.
She says it's a wild coincidence. She was already there.
We're on the boat and they head below where she takes a beer and is again unable to explain how her prints were on the murder weapon. But we know how she picked it up as far as she's concerned.
Well, she doesn't know how the gun with her fingerprints shot Frost. Because she feels like she was holding it.
You know, at this point, she should remember. So it must have been another gun then.
Well, you'd think she would make that connection, but she doesn't at this point. But she's not a cop, so let's be fair.
As she is recounting what happened, she remembers something.
Yeah, the casino chip he was holding was glowing when the lights went out.
So Cliff admits that the shooter would have wanted a target in the dark and states that it was on the table when Frost sat down and he was known to fidget and play with one when he sat.
All things that are literally true.
Yes.
And Charlie remembers the thing about the fidgeting with the chip anyway.
And points out that Hasp, it was a thing that, you know, I suppose most poker players do, or many of them. Yeah. And if it was known about him, Hasp would have known that he did this.
She would. Cliff says he might just hand her in for the crime anyway.
And F the truth. Charlie wrongly assumes, however, that he wants to see the real culprit get what's coming to him, as he loved Frost.
He asks what they should do.
Yeah, he doesn't disagree.
He doesn't answer the question.
No, of course not. Yeah, and she responds by saying that they should leave, get out of the place. So up on the deck, Cliff starts the engine and asks her to go down and get his iPad.
She suggests that they go to the DR, I think, Dominican Republic, I presume.
Is that what she says? Okay.
And yes, so she heads down below and...
Well, he's trying to stall for time. He's looking over for the cops to arrive.
He is, but she's struggling to find this iPad.
But what does she discover?
Well, she girdles in his bag and finds this tube of black light chips.
Yeah, so as sirens can be heard in the background, she shouts up to him that she's found his murder chips and asks what the cops will think of this discovery.
She also hears the engine stopping, so he's obviously not selling them anywhere.
But he is confident that the evidence against her will outweigh the chip itself.
Yeah, and he locks her down in the inside part of the boat.
However, she manages, I think using a bottle opener, to get the door open, and when he comes down to restrain her, she punches him, nearly blinds him with the dildo ring.
He's clearly in a lot of pain. He goes down, and she then goes out through a skylight. Could you not have done that before?
Does she not just head back up?
She opens like a window hatch in the roof.
Okay.
And climbs out. So she could have done that while she was locked in.
Right.
Sure. I don't know. Anyway, she then jumps off the boat and swims away.
Just as the cops and the FBI arrive. So, Cliff steps off the boat and meets Clark with his colleagues and points to Charlie swimming away. But to his great dismay, they're not there to talk about the murder of Senior.
No, first of all, Clark's quite unsympathetic about Cliff's eye, saying it looks really effed up. And it does. We get a lingering close-up. He points out that she's getting away, and as you say, Clark says they're there for something else.
Yes, instead he produces the tape recorder and plays the reverse side of the tape where we hear Cliff and Junior discuss the murder of Natalie and Gerry.
And then Cliff is arrested for those murders.
And he reacts to this by sort of laughing maniacally and stares at the camera with his really dodgy, gross eye and claims that it was all inevitable.
Indeed. We then, I don't know how much later, but a period of time later, see Charlie's car.
I think it'd be the same day.
Do you?
Yeah, because she doesn't have a car. She needs to get out there.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not Charlie who gets out of the car.
No, it's Clark who's driven it to this. It's a general store come restaurant place.
It reminded me of the one in Rest in Metal where the guy, Gavin, was looking at the menu and stealing the lyrics and stuff.
Sure.
Anyway, Charlie is inside here and is happy that he's been able to close another big case with her help.
Yeah, he thanks her again for this assistance. And again, she declines the offer of a job at the Bureau. This is after being told that Cliff turned on Hasp and sold her down the river, obviously trying to save his own skin.
Yeah, so the big case wasn't arresting Cliff, it was this in to the Hasp empire. And Charlie's a bit confused about this, and Lucas even more confused because he doesn't understand why she would think she's not being arrested if the case was still live.
Of course. However, she's got a bit of a problem because while they know that Hasp is their most wanted, she's not at this point been arrested.
No. So he advises Charlie, having turned down the job with the FBI, to keep his number.
Yeah, and then watches as she walks out.
And is then presented with her cheque.
It's the least he could do, I think. So outside, she seems in good spirits, obviously, with the burden of impending death seemingly lifted from her shoulders. However, she receives a call which elicits another dose of déjà vu.
Yeah?
Charlie Cale. Do you know who this is?
Yeah. I have an assumption. I mean, Beatrix Hasp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Well, listen, Charlie. I'm here with the 5 families.
You're there with all 5 of them?
Yeah, I got you on speaker. And what we're dealing with now is a war. It's expensive and a pain in the ass, and it is no good. It's bad. It's ruinous is the word. And it didn't need to happen, but it did. It happened because of you.
Well, I disagree with that.
Which is your prerogative. Look, this is a courtesy call. I know what your life's been for the past year. That was with Sterling, who still did surveillance with cassette tapes. We, on the other hand, are a fully modernized crime syndicate. There is no corner of the country deep enough to hide from us. We're going to find you. And your death will be neither quick nor comfortable. Unless... And this offer expires when I hang up. Cliff told me about your circus freak lie detector thing. You come back right now. You put it to work for the Hasps. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, look at that highway, kiddo. This life, how you're living, you like that life?
I don't know. I'm good at it. It's what I got.
Uh-huh. And how long do you think you can keep it up?
Well, B, let's all of us find out together. Huh?
We then, as we did in episode 1, see Charlie smash up her phone unnecessarily because she doesn't do anything to the SIM card. And chug a Coors Light again, like she did all the way through episode 1, and look thoughtful, as she did in every episode, more or less.
Before heading off on another adventure, this time with Neil Young playing us out.
And that's the end of the series.
It
Or
is.
the season.
The season, yeah.
How are we going to call it? I don't know what you would call it in America. Series 1?
Season
1? There you go. What does this mean? Is this the end?
Clearly not.
Do you think this sets up an identical second season? She just put herself back in the same scenario.
She has, yeah, which is what you want. You want more of the same, don't you? With twists, and you want an exploration of her character, I think. You want to find out a little bit more. But you don't want it to... I mean, you can't have her... I don't think you can have her working out of a single location. That's not what this is all about.
Think the mob angle's good? Overplayed?
No, I think that's fine. I think you need to raise the stakes. You can't have just one person after you now. This is... Because there's so many other options, or so many much more potential you've got with the mob, the connections they have, the money, the resources they've got behind them. I
think the sense of threat is what separates this from The Littlest Hobo. Nobody was trying to kill him.
Well, yeah, the world's not a safe place for loner dogs.
Well, he is quite far down the food chain.
Yeah.
Well, that's our next podcast.
No, but just like in Annie. You always get some sort of the dog pound, and if you don't get taken into a home, you're going to get executed anyway, aren't you? So
that's true. Right, let's look at a couple of bits and pieces from the episode. So when Emily talks about Charlie ruining things and something with her father and her truth and BS, what do you think that's related to? Is it something that her father's done?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can go quite dark here if you wanted to. Is there a hint of some sort of abuse in the past? Or I think you maybe suggested...
Maybe just philandering, breaking up the family.
Yeah, I think that there's obviously been a split in the family. Maybe Emily's taken the father's side, not believed.
Or maybe she just had her sort of illusions shattered.
Yeah.
If she's sort of thought she was living this sort of happy family life, normal family, and it's been blown out of the water because he's...
Yeah.
Or maybe this is a future revelation. Maybe he's a major criminal. Maybe there's some kind of plot thread that they can bring back in. Maybe he's still alive. Maybe he's one of the 5 families.
I don't think he's one of the 5 families, but I think that will be explored, and it should be explored. But there's obviously some disagreement between the pair of how she's handled this. But the fact is that it's her truth, so we know that whatever Charlie's...
And you can see there's certainly affection between them.
Do you think affection? I mean, I think there'll be an underlying love that you would have
between the sisters.
No, that's what I mean. I don't think there's an affection. I think it's just the sisterly love that you would have naturally, but nothing on top of that. I don't think there is an affection.
I think the way that she spoke about Charlie and how she would be doing good, and there's a bit of resentment, but I think she appreciates that she's a decent person and she cares about her.
Sure.
Another thing that I noted was that even though there was obviously beats they had to hit and there was exposition that they had to get out, it didn't really feel anything forced or predictable during the episode, and I think that's quite good credit to the writers and the actors and the rest of the folk involved for... this could have been quite a tricky episode too, because you're kind of wrapping up
I think
season 1 and setting up season 2 and not wanting it to be too sort of dull.
Yeah, that's what we said at the start. I think that this would not be a strong episode if it was just a standalone, if it had been episode 8 or so. Because I don't think that the sort of gotcha and the clues was as strong as what you have in...
Yeah.
But that wasn't the purpose of this episode. This was the bridge.
Exactly.
And I think that's how you have to focus on other areas of the story, of the plot, in order to do that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on to things like trivia?
No, we'll have a little chat, I suppose, before we finally wrap up.
Okay. One interesting thing I noted in an interview, Ryan Johnson compares the way this episode worked to the way Quantum Leap sometimes has episodes that progress the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to hear more about Quantum Leap, there's a good podcast. It's called The Leap Home. You can find it at theleaphome.com, and it's one that we're planning to head back to after this, I suppose.
Yeah, with 3 seasons in?
3 seasons are done, 2 seasons left to go. Feel free to join us for that in the coming weeks. Hasp scenes filmed at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. There's a lot of references to The Hook. I've talked about the episode title. It's Cliff talks about it, Sterling talks about it, it's on the telly. They get the song lyric, and Ryan Johnson again said that it's referencing the addictive little hooks in life that pull you into situations. Any other trivia?
Not too much. Will we go through the
cast?
The cast first? Okay. No, maybe get to what I've got, of anything. 9th of March 2023 was the first time you could have watched this episode. It was directed by Janixa Bravo. She was born on 25th of February 1981. She's a director, actress, and previously part of the sort of wardrobe departments. Her work includes Zola, In Treatment, Forever, Atlanta, Lemon, which was with her husband at the time. He was Brett Gelman, who you would know
from Stranger Things.
Yes. So they were married.
And Fleabag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lemon, I think, also starred Rhea Perlman, who we won't be discussing
Until a future date, we
today.
assume.
Yeah.
Imagine they don't bring her back and you've missed your opportunity.
Oh, well, I'll take that chance. This week's episode was written by Ryan Johnson, who we've previously considered. So the cast, the big name this week, Ron Perlman, played Sterling Frost Sr. He was born in April 1950, the 12th to be precise. I've recently, earlier this year, read his autobiography, and he's a very cool guy.
Interesting fellow.
Yeah, very. He's a prolific actor. You may have seen him in Hellboy back in the 80s, Beauty and the Beast, where he had 2 Primetime Emmy nominations. More recently, The Sons of Anarchy and Startup. He obviously has a great voice and has therefore done a tremendous amount of voice work, including Teen Titans, Danny Phantom, Adventure Time, Troll Hunters, Transformers, American Dad. I think actually he was also in, not as a voice actor, but he was in Police Academy Mission to Moscow.
And he was in one of the Fantastic Beasts,
Was he?
Harry Potter movies. Yeah.
Okay.
Not Harry Potter, but you know what I mean.
He has been married to actress Alison Dunbar since 2022.
It's a Scottish name.
I don't think she's Scottish. And his daughter, Blake, is also an actor. Another familiar face, Cliff,
Okay.
played by Benjamin Bratt, obviously. He was born on December the 16th, 1963, and you have probably seen him in Miss Congeniality,
Yeah.
Coco,
Yeah.
Demolition Man,
I've not seen him in Coco.
okay,
It's an
Titanic,
animation.
Traffic, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, E-Ring, Clear and Present Danger, and the one that he probably doesn't want to remember, Catwoman.
Doctor Strange as well, more recently.
Was he? His mother is an Indigenous American activist, and she took the 5 children along when she was part of the Alcatraz prison takeover in 1970.
That's exciting.
He's done quite well for himself in terms of his personal life. He was previously engaged to Julia Roberts from 1997 to 2001.
Okay.
So that's all right. And he is married to actress Talisa Soto. He has been since 2002. Now, I remember her from, she was a Bond girl in License to Kill. And I remember as a very young teen seeing her and being utterly overwhelmed by her gorgeousness.
Okay.
His older brother is Peter Bratt, who is a writer and director. Emily Cale was played by Clea Duval. She was born on 25th of September 1977 and has starred in The Faculty, Argo, Identity, The Handmaid's Tale, Veep, Better Call Saul, The Lizzie Borden Chronicles, Heroes, Carnival, and also The Grudge.
Yeah, she was in But I'm a Cheerleader with Natasha Lyonne. Bit of a reunion here.
She was indeed. And as she is a Duval, her father is obviously the actor Steph Duval, not Robert.
No.
No,
Maybe it's her grandfather.
it's not.
Okay. I was thinking you'd be a bit old to be her father.
I've decided to leave out Beatrix Hasp. I'm banking on her being
we
a
talked about that.
Yeah, a more permanent.
Well, you would assume that she'll be back.
So we'll get to her in season 2, I think. Finally, we haven't really mentioned them before, but we need to give a nod to both Nathan Johnson and Judson Crane for their terrific work on the score, the music, the compositions in this show. I think that especially the song selections as well is a major part in making Poker Face what it is, and I think it's clear that there's those involved have got a real love for music. It's not, they've not simply grabbed some songs and stuck them in.
No, it's all very thoughtful and skillfully done,
carefully crafted to augment each episode. So a shout out to them. You can tell they're real music lovers. Let me see, my 2 bits of trivia. One we've already covered with regards to Franz Ferdinand. And the 5 families is a name for the 5 mafia families from New York. The Bonanno, Columbo, Gambino, Genovese, and the Lucchese family. I remember reading an excellent book by Selwyn Rabb on that system.
Interesting.
The motive this week.
Well, it was mob warfare, wasn't it?
I went for revenge and financial reward. So Cliff killed...
Cliff's motive is, but he's only killing him because he was told to. So the reason he was getting killed was because Cliff was told to kill him.
Yeah.
Which was for mob benefits, so they could get a share of his business, I presume.
Yeah, but the reason he did it was for...
his own personal reasons for accepting the job, yes.
Okay. The clues, as I mentioned, that it wasn't this type of episode, but I suppose finding the poker chip was really the only time she put things together.
Well, from Charlie's point of view, from our point of view, you've got Charlie being given the gun to handle.
Yeah, but I'm talking about from her point of view.
Cliff avoiding answering questions.
The fact that she knew someone was nearby and she didn't do it was a clue to her.
I guess. The fact that Cliff's got a yacht now.
Yes, I suppose. Yeah. No, that's... Yeah. The gotcha, well, there wasn't a gotcha for Senior, but the gotcha for Natalie and Gerry was the recording.
Yes.
And finally, what do I have here? Product placement. There was a Heineken. I think you mentioned the last drink was...
Coors Light, yeah.
And Apple iPad.
I saw that, yeah. In terms of who did crimes this week, you've got Cliff, who shot Sterling. You've probably got Beatrix for conspiracy to murder. You've got Cliff assaulting and imprisoning Charlie. Arguably, did Luca conspire with a suspect? That's technically a crime, even though he knows she's innocent.
I would say it's a sackable offence, maybe not a crime.
Okay. In terms of getting away with it, he's fine because he's solved more cases, and Cliff is in prison probably now. Yes. And Beatrix, she's the head of a mob. She's going to get away with whoever she wants to get away with.
Of course.
Until they get her.
Until Charlie gets her.
So, there's nothing next week.
There's not. We will obviously be back as and when season 2 drops.
Yes.
But assuming it will.
Oh, you would have to think so. Is there anything you'd like to see in season 2?
An exploration of Charlie, how she, her ability when she first discovered it, how she's used it in the past, other than just with the poker, and the whole family thing's obviously been lined up for us.
In terms of Columbo nods, I'd like to see them bring back an actor as a different character, the way they did with Jack Cassidy, Robert Culp, like that. So maybe have Joseph Gordon-Levitt come in as a completely different
possibly
killer.
I don't think you could have Ron Perlman coming back. He's so
you could
distinctive.
have him back as the same guy, though. We've talked about this.
Well, that's the thing. There's no guarantee that he's dead. If they want to, they can certainly do that.
I think it's more likely that he's not dead.
You think?
On the balance. They would have shown him dead if he was dead.
But I think they won't bring him. If that is the case, they wouldn't bring him back for the whole season.
It'll be a reveal in episode 10 or maybe season 3.
Yeah,
if they can hold their fire. So this is the problem with some of these modern TV shows. They set up something like that. They don't have the patience to let it play out over a period of time. They have to bring it back 3 episodes in because this is a big reveal. Sure,
I'm not sure patience is fair. I think that potentially there's always a worry that you don't get.
They don't have the confidence that they're going to have another season. I suppose. Yeah. I like the idea that they might leave it so that's maybe hinted at, and then maybe in season 3 or even season 4 he shows up and he's never been dead at all.
But overall, it's just a tremendous... People obviously recommended it to us. We've read and heard about it. There's connections to obviously Columbo, but other shows off the era.
Yeah, and we were fans anyway of Rian Johnson's movies, particularly the Star Wars one, but also Knives Out and Glass Onion.
I've not seen the Star Wars one.
I really liked it.
I'm not really a Star Wars fan.
I would say it's my favourite of the Star Wars new movies.
Okay.
A lot of folk don't like it.
Right.
Too woke.
Okay.
That doesn't bother me.
Is that Ewoks with... I don't know.
There's no Ewoks.
I can't be bothered.
We're moving on. Okay, so I guess we'll see folk when season 2 rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like people to, whatever we're doing next, to follow along.
And if you want to listen to any of our old shows, you can always find those. We've done the original Star Trek series. That's available at astartrekpodcast.com. The podcast is called Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast.
Jonathan Creek, I said, I think if you
keep saying it,
if you like poker, I know it's maybe not as accessible in the States. You can probably buy it on Amazon per episode anyway, or iTunes or something.
It's on iPlayer, I think, from the BBC maybe.
But I'd be very, very confident if you like Columbo, if you like Poker Face, you would enjoy that. Yeah, it might be in a BritBox maybe. I don't even know if that's a BBC thing, isn't it? And you can get the podcast at jonathancreekpodcast.com. Similarly, sledgehammerpodcast.com for our Sledgecast about the old 80s cop comedy show. Other similar things, faultytowerspodcast.com, blackadderpodcast.com. There's a theme to our podcast. Yeah, it's us talking garbage. We just
don't really invent fascinating titles except for that one time we did.
It's all about SEO.
Okay, so yeah, enjoy those, and hopefully we'll see you again before too long.
Yeah, well, keep talking to us, I'd say as well.
Yes, engage with us, give us your feedback, point out the things that we missed, and we're happy to chat about that on social media, where we're at Columbo Podcast, at columbopodcast.com, where there's show notes for every episode, and you can obviously chip in on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Okay, well, au revoir.
Cheerio.